If I had a young 15-year-old who was promising, or at least somebody who had the ambition to do very well at sailing, I would first of all get them to sort their mind out, and I'd probably, one of the first things to do is get them to see a psychologist. Not a psychologist, or somebody who can settle their mind down. At 15, there's a lot of hormones going around in people, and the person would be quite quick to move one direction, quite quick to move to the other direction, maybe wants to please these people, wants to please themselves. So the first thing I do, whether it be me or employing somebody, will get them to get their mind focused and keep the focus, because one of the biggest issues I see with our youth is when I was 18, our attention span was 3.5 minutes for an EP on a record disc. Now the attention spans are coming much, much shorter with our social media. So the first thing I would do would be get them so that they can actually have quite long, considered, in-depth thought with themselves and about what they're doing. That would be the first thing I would do, even before you decide what sport it would be. My daughter was, when she was a teenager, was in the top 100 in the world at tennis. And she said her biggest gain was when she played for a year in China. And in China, they really work on discipline of the mind and discipline of the body. And coming from a Western nation, she was living in Spain at the time, but she's Australian. I thought that was pretty novel. So myself, if I had a young student, first of all, I would get them to be able to understand their own mind, to calm themselves down, to get them to really ask themselves the question, why am I entering into this sport? And what is my ambition? And am I prepared to actually do the work to get there, wherever I want to go to? And can I support my coach, and can the coach support me? So it's about somebody understanding their beliefs about what they want to do. Because some people go into competitive sport for the pure recognition of it. It could be peer pressure, it could be pressure from their social environment. They may go into it because they enjoy the sport and they just want to do as well as they can. Or it might be that they really do want to be the best in their field, in their state, in their country, in their continent, or in the world. So working out the motivations, and if they can have the mental preparation for it, is probably the first place to start, because otherwise they'll fail. My daughter found out that she had the 4th fastest service in the world at one stage. She found out that her serve could not win the game. What won the game, or can win the game, is being consistent all the time and being able to put behind you immediately any defeat or any step backwards. You forget about, in your mind, you've got to have the ability in your mind to put behind you a loss of a serve, a loss of a set, or a loss of a race, as we do in yacht racing. If we had a loss, we want to be able to go back to the next race immediately and not reflect in our mind and get upset about the bad things we did, the good things we did. We just got to go, it's a clean slate again. I've got all these tools available to me. I'm going to have a good start. I'm going to get away, and I'm going to get clear attack. Same with the tennis, forget about that set, forget about that match point, forget about anything. I'm going to do the next action. So that's the most important thing, is to get the brain started early, because in this world, if things are very jumbled up at the moment, especially with the social media and Joseph and his technical coat, where everybody on social media says they're better than what they are, they look better than what they are, You know, you've got to get people, your student or your, whatever you want to call them, to be humble. I guess that's the first starting point.
A follow on. Okay, we've got to that stage. I'm now going to teach them how to mentally rehearse. They've never done it in a structured way. What would you do? How would you teach them to do it? What would you teach them to do?
Well, we can't teach them everything at once. So maybe, I'm assuming now that the student understands the fundamentals of preparing their tennis racket and their balls, or they're preparing a vessel to sail, whatever. So, and they understand the rules. So I make sure they understand all the rules, and they come back to me and they say, I'll ask them questions. Do you understand the rules of the game here, rules of the game there? Say, okay, what we can do is we can draw on the floor. So I just get a floor, get some little model boats or a big whiteboard, and we say, we're going to do a race, just you and me. And then we'll say the winds from here, we'll do this, where are you going to start? And just practice the wind speeds this, you tack there, I'll tack here. Practice approaching marks and coming out of marks. So that's how I guess I would have done it. But I think nowadays, and I do know nowadays, we can actually simulate that on a computer. So I'd probably go to the e-game suppliers now that do, because I think World Sailing have e-championships, where you can be on a PlayStation, I guess, on a computer, and I'm going to be on a PlayStation and a computer, and I'd actually practice virtually racing with them. I think that would be probably one of the best ways now, just to get some principles in place and some thinking in place. And the next step would be, so that's getting the mechanics sorted out, but then the next step would be where we could maybe be somewhere quiet or walking along and saying, where we just discuss, say, hey, it's the two of us racing, we're going to do a championship in, I don't know, Lake Garda, Italy. The wind's going to be going 15 knots. You're coming in on starboard, I'm coming on port, and we both tack together. And we're half a boat length apart. What are you going to do? And this is just discussing it in our minds. They say, okay, what are you going to do? I'm just about ahead of you. What are you going to do? You're going to hike harder? Are you going to foot away a bit and get some more speed and try and get separation from me? Or are you going to try and push me up? Or do you want to slow down and tack, but I'll tack on top of you, so that's no good? So we'll just go through that in our minds and talk it through, just talk it through. Okay, you've footed away, you've tacked, you've got the first shift, you're ahead of me. That's great, we're coming into the mark, we're 100 meters from the mark. Are you going to tack on the lay line, or are you going to tack before the lay line? And what are you going to do if I come and I'm on your transom and we go around the mark? Are you going to jibe away? Are you going to stay that I can sit on your ear? So it's just talk about and think about what we're going to do in that race, theoretically in our minds.